Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome once again to Haunt Chat Live. Tonight, we got the Big Scary Show with Drew Badger and his co-hosts. We got Jerry Vane and Storm and me, Hook Jim. I am Mistress Lori, your hostess with the mostest, and we welcome you all and want you to give a warm welcome to, of course, the one, the only, our Gravedigger.
Hey, how you doing? How you doing? Welcome everybody to episode 5 of Haunt Chat Live. That's right, tonight, as Mr. Lori was so kind to tell you all, the Big Scary Show. Now, I know you guys heard him. You listen to him, BigScaryShow.com, and on Facebook, Big Scary Show. If you've gone to any convention of any kind, haunt related, you're gonna find one of them out there. So maybe you've done an interview with Drew, or maybe Jerry's talked to you a little bit. We're going to talk to them tonight. We're going to find out what they do, and we'll hear all about the Big Scary Show and find out just how the hell they can be everywhere all at once. So welcome, guys. Welcome, everybody. I want to tell Jason, there you go. Make sure you turn your mute off. That's right. Okay. Welcome. Let's start out with Drew Badger. Kind of the name. Well, all you guys' names are associated with it, but sorry, I pointed to Drew. So we're going to start out with Drew. Tell us a little bit about the Big Scary Show. Where'd you come from? What you doing?
Well, let's see here. Thank you, Reverend Mike Gravedigger, and all that kind of stuff. Well, let's see. The Big Scary Show was formed where, I guess, out of the ashes of a previous podcast that I'm not going to mention any names of. Somebody else might. I don't care. And the four of us were just deciding one of these days, hey, why don't we form a podcast of our own, since the other show we were working for was dying a slow death. So we all got together, kind of figured out who would do what, kind of figured out that podcasting thing. And then on Friday the 13th,
oh my goodness,
2012, Big Scary Show episode 1 hit the airwaves. And as they say, the rest is history.
The rest is 140 episodes as of today worth of history.
As of today.
That is awesome. I did take the time to listen to today's episode too.
Thank you.
So you betcha. And I want to tell people, now Drew made a mention to me the other night. Remember, guys, they have a contest on this thing too. It's not just listening, just learning great stuff about it, but they even have a contest. So make sure you listen. They'll give you the question, and then you email them with the answer, and they pick a random one of the answers, and you win stuff. Now, that's how I met Drew initially, because I answered a question, and I won, and I still got the mask saying right over here that I got. So that's really, really
nice.
That's really, really cool. I got to remember.
When did we first meet? Was it Midwest last year, or was it HauntCon the year before? When was that?
First time it was Transworld was the first time that we actually met face to face. Yes.
Last year.
Not this year.
Not this year. Okay.
And then HauntCon, and then Midwest Hunters Convention also. We've been there.
Absolutely.
And you guys are everywhere else. So I know that Drew tends to kind of take over. He's got control issues, whatever. So I want to make sure that everybody on here gets a chance to speak. Now we know that he said the four of you guys all got together and decided to do this. So who was the next one? Who was the next person after you, Drew, that said, "Hey, let's do this"?
Actually, I think it was. Yeah, it was pretty much all of us. We were doing the previous podcast, which we can say the name. It's been 5 years. Rotting Flesh Radio.
Right.
We were all involved with them at one point in various capacities. Drew was doing interviews. I was doing music segments. Storm had his rant segment, and Jim was doing
Fears.
Face Your Fears, I think, wasn't it? Oh, the phobias.
It was the first version of Face Your Fears, yeah.
And that's kind of how it all started, and things with the podcast started getting very squirrely. We didn't know what the hell was going on, and we started talking amongst ourselves and went, you know what? We're having fun doing this. Let's give it a shot ourselves. And that was, I want to say, January of that year when we started talking about that.
That's about right.
Roughly.
And yeah, it was around January, because it took several months to figure out, how we're going to do it, what we're going to do, what the show was going to be like. Try not to copy what we did with the previous one. Get sponsors. Get people on board.
How to do it cheaply.
Right. Unfortunately, because of our affiliation with the podcast, we had to prove to everybody that we're not him. What happened with him was a result of him. We were not involved in the situations revolving the demise of the show, and it took a while, and we finally got everything going. And you listen to the first several episodes compared to now. There were a major growing curve, major learning curve, trying to get this thing to sound somewhat cohesive. And I mean, Jim does most of the production for the show, if not all of it. He puts everything together, and it's coming along. In 5 years, it's come along really great.
They're still listenable.
Yeah.
We've grown a good bit. Let's just
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I know where you're coming from, because we're only in episode 5, but we've kind of got getting things figured out even more and more as we go. As I mentioned, it was so great to have all of you on ahead of time and ready to go. Our very first episode, we were 30 seconds out, and before we got the guest all set in. So I really appreciate that from all you guys. So that was, of course, Jerry. You guys see his name down below. That is Mr. Jerry Vane, the Honstrumentalist. Did I say that right?
Yeah. When I first started doing this in 2006, actually about 2008, when I started doing this, it was called the Hunt Rocker. And for the style I was doing then, it made sense. Now it's expanded and grown, so I kind of dropped the Hunt Rocker thing and became the Honstrumentalist.
Gotcha. That took me a little bit to figure out how to say it. Now, also in there was mentioned Meat Hook or Jim, also known as, can I say it?
Go ahead.
Unknown scare actor. He's not unknown anymore. There he is, folks.
That is the most realistic mask I've ever seen.
Worst kept secret in the industry, but I don't care. It's all good.
Awesome. So what made you want to, well, we know you were doing the show before. How did you get involved initially in doing the things that you do, the interviews or the segments that you do? How did you get to doing that?
Well, I actually started out as a fan of Rotting Flesh Radio, listening to Drew Badger, Jason Storm, and Jerry Vane, or Jerry's music as it may be. That's how I started with these guys. I was a fan of them. And I reached out to Jonathan Johnson, who ran Rotting Flesh Radio, and said I'd like to participate. And that's kind of where I came in. I came in towards the end. But these guys were all very accommodating, and we just gelled really well. So after all that went through, and we realized that we were going to make our own show happen. I mean, we went through a slew of names. One of them actually was our slogan or our tagline, which is "We hit the body." Right. I was actually we were jockeying that as the name of the show.
Okay, all right.
Welcome to We Hit the Body, episode 140. Doesn't ring off the tongue.
Moving on from there, these. As was mentioned earlier, I do most of the production, and I took that responsibility on myself. Drew, Jason, Jerry, they're great at producing their pieces for the show.
Right.
Which makes my life much easier because I don't have to piece everything together and then piece the show together. Oddly enough, go ahead, Jerry.
It's funny that Jim's actually the one that got us all set up as how to do our segments, how to put, what program to use to do it. I mean, this was literally piecemealed together.
Sure.
Even though I have the recording studio, a lot of people think that I'm the one putting the show. No, it's all Jim. Jim's the one that puts this whole thing together. And, really the show having the stamp that it has now, how it flows. It's
ironic. And ironically enough, it was Jim that was on the road this week visiting yet another convention that we do. I've been on the road for 9 straight weekends. This is my first weekend home since June. I didn't know what I was going to do with myself. And then, of course,
Well, there you
Jim's
go.
out on the
We
road
gave you
today.
something to do.
Fantastic.
Yeah, we're glad you cleaned up.
It was the temporary restraining order. We know.
Yeah, what are you going to do?
But
All right.
let me finish up real quick.
Okay.
So here we are. Oddly enough, I do all my production on a MacBook with Audacity. That's it.
I love Audacity. Love
It is
Audacity.
a wonderful piece of software. And I've been using Audacity since day one. And I won't use anything else. It is that simple. It is that clean. Sometimes I miss a few things here and there, but it can take me anywhere from 2 to 8 hours to produce a show on a Saturday.
Sure. How can you produce a 3-hour show in 2 hours?
Yeah. That's the trick.
Trust. It's all trust, right?
He's faced his fears.
That's it. I'm sorry, Reverend. Please continue.
That's all right. That's all right. That's all right. Well, I want to get on, just make sure because poor Storm's been sitting here.
Yeah.
He's sitting here. He's being nice and quiet, and he's one of the originals. I kind of jumped out of the loop here, bringing Jim in. I should have followed up with you and brought Storm right to the forefront, because Storm's an important guy. We hear Storm quite a bit. So tell us, Storm, how did you get into this whole thing?
Yeah, I was involved with the prior show that we were all part of and working with, and the big thing that started happening with that show is it dropped off from being regular. It started going from every week to every 2 weeks to once a month to every couple of months, and you had that gap in there, and I love it being a podcast and something for a haunted attraction industry, because you need to stay sharp. It helps you know what products and stuff are out there. It helps give you inspiration. The music, hearing from people, hearing about the conventions, hearing the news, that type of thing. You started losing that gap of it. And so when that show pretty much went off the air and promises to be on it, not being on, I'm like, talking with these guys, I'm like, oh, we need to do something. And it's a bummer, because something's missing from the industry. And podcasts were still very young at the time, too.
Mm-hmm.
So it was neat that we jumped in, but finding that format and finding, the footing with it. And one of the neat things that really came from that was the Roundtable of Terror. And that was, ended up being the key piece that we want to dedicate time to do this. We know that we're all going to be busy, and we all know we have the different skills. What can we do where all 4 of us can collaborate, have really good content for the show? And the roundtable became that type of thing. And it's great because it can be anything from just a conversation with us to an interview to hard-hitting things. Our episode this week, we actually dealt with intellectual property theft. And, one of the scourges in the haunt industry, because we're all artists, is somebody taking your ideas and using it for their own. And this was really triggered from social media and us seeing what happened to Chad Savage 2 weeks ago, where his art was pretty much stolen and somebody was using on one of those T-shirt of the day type of deals.
And
so
over the
that
last
was
couple
one
of
of the neat
years,
things.
I've seen that kind of thing happen several times too, with Spirit or Kmart or Target selling something, and somebody's like, "Hey, wait a minute, that was mine. How did that go up?"
Target tends to see, at least when we were learning from the conversation we had, Target seems to be the one that's the biggest one.
Yeah,
which is surprising, because I'm not shopping there anymore.
No, and that's all part of what keeps us going on with it too. Getting fresh things, doing things out there that keeps us invigorated with the haunt industry. Each of us have changed what we've done within haunts and the haunt industry over the past 5 or 6 years that we've done it too. But through the podcast and through the show, we're able to bring other elements and hopefully feel like we contribute to the industry and to haunts themselves.
Well, one of the things you mentioned early on, regularity. Now, I know for me, I'm much happier when I'm regular. So, having the show on a regular schedule. Now, we chose to do this one only once a month, because I'll tell you, I don't know how you guys can do a weekly show. Setting everything up, getting everything ready. This way, I knew that I could do it once a month on schedule, and you know what's coming up. Plenty of time for promo. You guys put this thing out weekly, right?
Well, we do a regular
almost.
We do a regular show every other week.
That's right.
And then, of course, in the subsequent weeks, we have Big Scary News, because news happens more than once every 2 weeks. So it's a little 30-minute roundup or so of the latest, what's going on. And a lot of the times when we go to conventions and haunted houses and we talk to people, we have leftover interviews that we weren't able to put into a regular show. So a lot of times we'll throw those in as a bonus interview that you will not hear anywhere else.
That is really cool.
And it can range from, trans world vendors to haunted house owners to, we have a member of the Village people on our current Big Stories, episode 107, who has worked in horror films. He's an actor, and he's played in Edgar Allan Poe's Cask of Amontillado, and he's a fascinating person. So,
I thought it was Burt Reynolds.
Somewhere in our archives, we actually have what I would probably say would be the last interview with Richard Brooker.
Wow.
Nice.
About a month before he passed.
Yes.
The very last recording.
And we've never used it for whatever reason.
We have not. It's still in the archives.
And we were the very first people to ever interview Robert Mukes from House of a Thousand Corpses.
Yeah.
He's all over the place now.
Yep.
Now he is.
He's at cons and everything everywhere. Now, the other thing that you brought up, Storm, was the Roundtable of Terror, which, for those of you who haven't yet seen or heard the Big Scary Show, is where you guys all get together, and I apologize, I have no idea what that clicky sound is that keeps coming in. But anyway, where you guys all get together and you might have guests and you discuss a single topic, which is really cool. I enjoy listening to that whenever I can also. So how do you guys come up with the idea, okay, what's our topic going to be for this episode?
It kind of varies. I mean, like in the case of the one we were talking about with the plagiarism issue, that came up literally because of, like Storm was saying, that shirt that was popping up all over the place with Chad's artwork, and I just happened to see it one morning, and that's where that topic sometimes will spark an idea for the round table being, okay, we got build season coming up, so let's talk to somebody about fire marshal issues. Let's talk about prop making. Let's talk about makeup. Roundtable on actor training. We've done a couple roundtables on music, bringing in different musicians, because a lot of people don't realize it's not just Midnight Syndicate, Nox Arcana, Virgil Franklin. Those aren't the only ones out there. You've got
lots of people.
Shadow Symphony, Verse 13, Prelude to a Nightmare, Graveyard Productions, Audio Zombie. There's that new one. Sinister Sounds.
You got Chris Thomas, Music for Hans.
Chris Thomas? Yep. Sinister Symphonies out of the UK. And then this ugly schmuck here.
There's huge amounts of this music out there.
But a lot of it kind of stems from what we happen to hear going on in the industry. Or in some cases, we okay, we got to record tonight. We have no idea. 13 Questions of Doom.
There we
Storm, go for it.
Storm invented the greatest catch-all roundtable of all, the 13 Questions of Doom. AKA, we can't think of a topic, we couldn't get in yet. So let's have Storm run the show, just like the McLaughlin. And it's brilliant. So.
Every time that weird sound happens, I'm looking, I can't see who's doing it. It's not coming through on us, so I don't know.
Frankly, I'm surprised we've been able to figure out 140 things to talk about to this point. But
I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
We have a hard enough time trying to figure out where to go eat at a convention, let alone come up with a topic.
Ain't that the truth?
Now, we've already covered a couple of the questions that I had down here just in general chat. You already covered some of those things, so I actually have to kind of look down here and see. Okay, now I was mentioning before, you guys are all over the place. One of you guys or two will go to one convention, while if there's another one going on somewhere else. Now I know you had pretty much two conventions going on at the same time. And I know that Drew went out to Scare LA. And then one of you, and I forget, was over on the East Coast.
Storm.
Was that
Storm?
Storm? Yeah.
Well, yeah. Yeah, if Drew was on the West Coast, I'm the only one left.
Yeah, and then we had I was at Horrorhound. No, Jim was at Transworld, weren't you? And I was at Horrorhound the following weekend. So yeah, we've been bouncing all. I mean, Drew's the one that does the most. I don't know how the hell he can afford to do this, but he's the one that does the most.
Tax write-offs are a beautiful thing, and my accountant is amazing.
There you
Storm
go.
handles a lot in the Rhode Island, Massachusetts area. You got to Massachusetts, right, Storm?
Rhode Island.
Rhode Island, okay. And then Jim, sorry, I just moved to this side of the world, so give me a break. And then Jim handles a lot of the stuff that's he's got to St. Louis down to Lexington and everything. And me being the newest resident out here, after just moving from Vegas out to Columbus, I'm just starting to get involved a little more with the conventions as well.
Okay, so but I actually wrote this one down because I know Drew pops all over the place. How many airline miles, frequent flyer miles do you rack up in a year?
Oh, a lot.
Right?
That's the thing. I just keep using them, so I keep like a standard enough for 1 or 2 plane tickets ahead, and then I just keep booking. I train actors at haunted houses around the country, and part of my contract is the haunt owner buys my flight, but uses my frequent flyer miles. So I just keep I keep earning them there. I haven't hit the 1,000,000-mile club yet. I'm sure I will at some point. I would like
Somewhere
that.
coming up soon.
Well, if he's not flying, he's driving. I mean, seriously, the guy racks up a lot of mileage. But then you have so many different conventions popping up in your neck of the woods out there. God, where the hell are you again?
The Carolinas. We'll say.
Thank you.
But the thing that I like about this is the fact that we've been around for 5 years now, and people know of us. So I mean, we can call the promoter of Days of the Dead. We can call the promoter of Mad Monster Party. We can call the promoter of
Scarefest,
Midwest, or Scarefest, or Transworld, or HauntCon, and say, hey, we'd like to come down, cover the show, media passes, get you guys on the show, and they're like, okay. I had a chat this week with one of the people who are running the Halloween Party Expo in New Orleans. Which
now also combined with HauntCon,
which has just combined with HauntCon. Leonard said to her, "You need to talk to the people from the Big Scary Show." That's her words, saying that's what Leonard said. And so we had a conversation. She's putting together some kind of a proposal for us to come down there, cover the show, and see what happens. So we'll probably have her or some representative on the show, and we'll go down there and have some cool things happening, because we normally go to HauntCon if we can.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and with Jim and Jim and I living in Ohio, I mean we're closer. We're closer now than ever.
Yeah, you've got you guys are in striking distance of Chicago and Cleveland,
which brings up a question.
Jim especially.
You and Jim are up in Ohio, yet it was you and Drew at. I didn't see Jim at Midwest. Now I saw the two of you in the bar getting crazy, but
Jim was there.
Jim was there.
Jim there? I didn't see Jim. That's all. Maybe I just didn't run into you.
You did see me, actually.
Did I?
You did.
When did I see you?
It was on Sunday.
You just had too much to drink.
It was on Sunday. Oh, you're right. I did, because I came back around and talking to everything. Okay.
Yes.
I'm going to blame that one on the 1890s brain right here. Okay. So,
okay.
Yeah, we just can't get that going. Okay, so let's get into one of those standard questions. You've had now 140 shows. Who knows how many different segments going. Who was your favorite person to talk to? Drew, go.
Oh, wow.
Me personally was a 15-minute sit-down with Cassandra Peterson, a.k.a. Elvira. The only person I've had to go through people to really, really get to. I had to have a person call me and an email exchange and a yes, we're going to allot you X amount of time at this particular show in Virginia that I was visiting.
Wow.
We had a sit down. It made Big Scary Show or Big Scary News, I think. I don't remember which one it was, but it was a glorious conversation. Very sweet lady.
Yep.
And to this day, when I see her at a convention, her handler will, wave her little hand. Hey, we know who you are. No, you can't talk to her unless you go through our people again. So
There you go.
Call
but I love
security.
her to death. It's
Well,
that
that's funny
guy
'cause-
again.
That's funny because when I saw her Crypticon, she's like, Reverend, come on over, sit on my lap. How are you doing? How are you doing? So, I don't know what's wrong with you.
I envy you, sir.
I envy myself sometimes also. Storm, what about you? Who's over all these years, who's been your favorite?
I don't know. We've had some neat discussions. I'd have to say we did a roundtable in our first year, which had a whole bunch of horror hosts, and I'd have to say that was the most fun discussion. For conventions and stuff, it's neat talking to some of the stars and getting the interviews, but what I really love is talking to some of the vendors, especially ones who, oh, I don't know if I want to do this. I've never done an interview or something like this before, and you just start asking them questions, and you find out why they do what they do. You find out, the passion behind their art. You find out all these neat little stories. In this episode we got up now, is talking at the Necronomicon to this really neat artist who made all these little curio things and jewelry and stuff, and it's because she had worked at a butcher shop and got used to using animal bones and stuff, and then she started using it in her art. And it's just neat little stories like that, which I find these aren't your movie stars and things like that, but it connects with the audience, and I think it connects with us as haunters because it's so much of an artistic and passionate thing we do. Whether you're in a professional haunt, whether you're an actor, or you're building a multi-million-dollar haunt, or you're just doing the best job you can on your front lawn.
Okay, so we're down. Unfortunately, this isn't a 3-hour show. We're down to the 3 minutes. So I don't want to miss you guys. Jerry, quickly, who is your favorite person to talk to, or to play for, or?
Okay, as far as roundtables, one of my favorite is a lot of the music ones, bringing in the different musicians and hearing their perspectives on how they come up with what they do, whether it be Midnight Syndicate and Virgil. And what Storm brought up, we had 5 horror hosts on who were in character the entire time.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
That was a lot of fun.
I plan on after I get through all the haunt industry people, I plan on doing this with that same type of a thing, getting horror hosts from around the country and get them together for this whole thing. And of course, B-Hook, what about you?
Well, real quick, I'll put it in a nutshell. My favorite interview was actually Naomi Grossman. If you're familiar with American Horror Story, she played Pepper. Met Naomi in Florida, actually stood up for the unknown scare actor as his best woman when he got married to the Lady of Darkness in Canada several years ago.
Wow.
I've stayed in touch with her over the years. Really sweet lady, great interview. She's going to stick in my head for a long time.
Awesome. I wish I could talk to you guys all night long. This has been one of the smoothest, best running. Thank you all for coming in here and chatting with us. Now, I want to remind people out there, if you're watching live, I will post a link to where you can actually come in and chat for any of these guys who want to stick around. We'll do a regular Saturday night hot chat that we do unlive. Hot Chat Dead? I don't know, something like that. But I'm glad that I'm so glad that you all were able to join us tonight. Remember, it's Big Scary Show on Facebook. It's BigScaryShow.com. It's, I believe, The Big Scary Show at Twitter.
Yep.
Enter our contest.
Yeah. Enter the contest. Listen to the podcast. Download them. Put them as background sound. Buy
Jerry's music.
Buy Jerry's music. Buy everybody's music. Sure, yeah. All that good stuff. So we got a final question for the night, and we'll just go down the line. It's going to be a very simple answer. It'll be Drew, Storm, Jerry, Jim. Okay? Pants or no pants?
No pants.
Shorts.
Jerry?
No comment.
No mas pantalones.
There you go.
Kilts are not shirts.
No pants here.
That's right.
Hello.
Well, we're here for that matter. That's what I love about these things. Cameras always right here. Thank you all for being on the show. Thank you all for being on the show. This is Hot Chat Live. Subscribe to the YouTube, like the Facebook page. The Gravedigger, hey, I got my own Facebook page now. It's Hunt Gravedigger. And on Facebook, just look up the Gravedigger, Reverend Michael. You'll find it out there. We will see you all next month. It will not be a normal show because the Hunt will be open. I'll be down there hosting that, so we'll do a live from the Hunt. We'll talk to some of the guests. I don't know what's going on with that, but thank you guys again for being on here. And we had a blast.